Let's head down to Austin, Texas, where border correspondent Jason Jones is standing by with some exclusive video. Jason, what do you got for us?
Carl, good morning. It's good to be with you this morning. As now finally President Biden goes to the border and then has a summit in Mexico, I want to show you what's taking place on your southwest border because consistently Secretary Mayorkas tells the American people that your border is safe and your border is secure. Let me show you what was seen yesterday from a U.S. drone flown by a private security company just outside Arivaca, Arizona, 300 meters into Mexico. What you are seeing here is what's known as a Sinoloa Cartel forward operating base. Now, this base, if you'll notice, had approximately 50 armed gunmen. And in a period of about 45 minutes, they fired anywhere from 50 to 150 rounds at this drone. And I want you to take a look at what you're seeing because to the American public, this is on your border. We talk about the immigration issue all the time, and it's very important, but we can't forget about the national security implications and the public safety threats to the American people by these cartels, as we have lost over 100,000 people just to fentanyl and to deadly drugs in this country like methamphetamine. But as you see these videos play out, you're actually seeing gunmen shooting at the drones here and the different fortified positions. Now, why are these bases here? This is what's important. It's because the Sinaloa cartel is fractured between two factions. The Los Chapitos, the sons of of Chapo Guzman, and El Mayo's people. And they have these bases out there because they're battling for space so that they can move deadly drugs into the country. This location, by the way, is one of those in Arizona where most of fentanyl and methamphetamine are moved into the United States. But it's an example of the level of failures occurring at the southwest border. Carl, you're as a Navy SEAL, look at what you're seeing here. This is how unsecure our border has become. And while the immigration layer is definitely a huge issue, we cannot forget about the public safety and national security threats to this country. I just want to close with one last thing here, and that's this. As you're watching this, I will say it again and again. What we are witnessing in Mexico and at the southwest border is the largest U.S. intelligence failure since 9/11.
Yeah.
Back to you.
Well, Jason, it's crazy to me is, I've taken effective lethal shots at greater distances than 300 yards, which is what they are to our border. I mean, heavens forbid a border agent is in their sights. I mean, it'd be an easy thing for them to take down, which is terrifying, actually. But Jason, stay with us real quick. I want to bring in senior law enforcement analyst, former acting CBP commissioner, and Heritage Foundation visiting fellow Mark Morgan. All right, Mark. 300 yards, they have IR tents and sniper rifles and shooting at drones. What the heck?
Yeah, Carl, look, let's foot stomp on something that Jason said. This is not about immigration. That's what this White House and the open border advocate want to make this about. We need to put this aside. How much data, how much more information, real-time data do we need to see that our borders are not secure, as Jason said? This is not about immigration. This is about national security. Look, those videos show just how powerful, just how influential, just how organized the Mexican cartels are. They own our southwest border. Law enforcement on our border right now they're unable to do their job to protect our nation against the vast set of complex threats that are invading this country at the hands of the cartels. That video is once again another layer of proof. And this is because of this administration's open border policies. Look, illegal immigration is an important subset of this because that's what drives our borders to be open. It pulls agents off the front line. It hands operational control over to the Mexican cartels so drugs can pour in, criminals can pour in, and national security threats can pour in. And it's happening every day, all day long, Carl.
But Jason, and I'll pose the same question to you, Mark, after this. But Jason, this is in Mexico. We don't have any jurisdiction over where the cartel are over there. We can't take any action against them. Like, what do we do?
Well, we've got to look at the totality of what's taking place. We have to designate these cartels as foreign terrorist organizations because as a nation, if we can't get the little things right, we're never going to get the big things right. And if you don't have that designation, you can't use tools of national power. That's first. Second, we've got to go after these labs in Mexico. And that's one thing that I hope the president has a real stern conversation with President AMLO about, because here's what's important and to understand about these labs. These labs, there are hundreds and hundreds of them. The Drug Enforcement Administration and U.S. intelligence agencies know exactly where they are. In the short run, Carl, we've got to be hitting these labs, working with SAMAR, which is basically the Mexican Marines, and other elite units within SEDENA to go after these labs and crush them. Because I will tell you, If you think for a second that the Sinoloa cartel and Cartel Jalisco New Generation is going to be upset after they've killed over 100,000 Americans from this deadly poison, they are not. All they care about is money and expanding
Right.
their capabilities in Mexico and throughout the world. We have to go after the labs, and we've got to crush them.
Well, but Mark, let's go into policy here. Let's say we do declare them a terrorist organization. Do we have the relationships with Mexico under this administration to just send in just send in a bunch of SEALs to blow up a couple drug labs in Mexico? I mean, how is that going to go over?
No, we don't. But Carl, it's irrelevant. We don't need a relationship, right? We need to lay down the gauntlet. We need to say, just like President Trump said, look, love him or hate him, the truth is, I'll give you an example. He said, Mexico, you're going to get your act together. You're going to step up and you're going to secure your southern border. You're going to increase interior enforcement. You're going to stop the flow of illegal immigration that is making our borders less secure and jeopardizing our nation. If not, we're going to slap the thing called tariffs on and we're going to destroy your GDP. Wow, shocker. Mexico stepped up and devoted more resources to securing their border and helping us than ever before in our lifetime. So we don't need them. We're going to tell them, as Jason said, look, and whether we make the official designation of making the cartels a terrorist organization, here's what we definitely need to do, as Jason said. We need to go after them just as we do terrorist organizations, with the same level of commitment, resolve, and resources that we do terrorist organizations. Look, I've been doing this for 40 years. We cannot continue to do the same thing and go after the cartels like we do criminal organizations here in the United States. It doesn't work. They're too big. They're too powerful. And to foot stomp something that Jason said, look, the labs, these super labs in Mexico, look, Carl, we know where they're at. We have the intelligence. We know exactly where they're at. We can go, we can locate, and we can destroy them. And the last thing that I'll say is this should be a multi-layered, broad approach. We also need to go after China as well with respect to getting them to stop sending the chemicals to Mexico.
Yeah, well, and that said, I mean, at this point, the cartel are so powerful. The Mexican government, they have to think about, are the tariffs worse or the cartel taking my family worse? And that's been allowed to grow in the last 2 years. Real quick, Jason, Ron DeSantis activating the National Guard. I mean, hundreds of thousands of Cuban migrants arrived by boat, southern Florida. What do you make of the fact that the National Guard's now involved?
Well, look, in Texas, the National Guard has been involved. You got over 12,000 deployed. This is a problem that we have to look at in the totality, Carl. At the end of the day, in just the last 2 months, you've had 561,000 apprehensions in this country of people coming from both our northern border and southern border. In a 3-month time span, we're looking at 800,000 people we're going to have. We've never seen that. So the fact that the governor in Florida is deploying his National Guard, I'm surprised he hadn't had to do it earlier. Texas had to do it over a year ago. So expect this to continue and just get worse. And I will say it right here, right now. Based on the policies that are taking place and the signaling to the world has heard it and they are coming.
Yeah, well, let's hope that some wise policy comes out of this. Mark Morgan, Jason Jones, we appreciate it.
Good to be with you.